because we like to say relationship is a business deal. It's not a business deal because business is more straightforward than relationships. It's not love either. It's somewhere in between. It's something on its own.
RJ, I think we can dive a bit deeper now to share whether how we look at things, how can we expect it to go, or at least from what we know, because a lot we don't know about this relationship. Adesanya is loading up the receipts, guys, so we will know what the receipts are later
Yeah.
on. But for now, what can we say about the chances of this legal move by the ex-girlfriend?
Yeah. So yeah, again, so the as you said, we can't give we have too little information on the specifics of the case, but one thing is for sure that is that the woman would need to prove that there is a situation that falls under the PRA. So the burden of proof will lie on the girl, the woman.
The
If she can
ex-girl,
prove, what did you say?
the ex-girlfriend.
The ex-girlfriend. If she can prove that there is a PRA situation, then the battle will. So that's the first step. Then the the second battle will be, okay, how will the division need to take place? There you will go and see what is actually under the names of each party, and based on that, and so the assets, the common assets, what falls under the common assets. In New Zealand, I've seen such, just like in other countries, or a lot of other countries, that what someone received in the form of an inheritance do not fall under the common property, common asset. If a mother, if your parents passed away and left you with a house, that house does not fall under the common property. But the first step, so you will need to check what the common assets are, what the common liabilities are. The third step would be
Well,
what?
it says well, continue. I'll chime into your part of the inheritance.
Yeah. The uh, common assets, common liabilities. After that, you go to the common. Um, After that, you will see what the so to what extent each party can contribute to to the to what extent each party carried the burden during the relationship, and based on that we will get a result. Now, and Desaya said he's currently gathering all the receipts, but the question is, what receipts are we talking about? If we're talking about receipts that they weren't together for 3 years, then that would definitely make the battle of the ex-girlfriend harder, because that will that will make the burden of proof heavier for her. uh, so yeah, but time will tell. We would need more information to reach a more educated conclusion.
Other than that, they also talk about when does separate property, which is an inheritance, become a relationship property here. Well, one last thing, and then we're gonna close out this show. Where the application of the relationship property or the direct or indirect actions of the other partner contributes to an increase in The value of separate property, that increased value may be classified as a relationship property. Indirect actions could include, for instance, caring for children while a partner works, or to increase the value of his or her separate property. The increase in value will not necessarily be shared equally. It will be appro- uh, uh, appo- apportioned according to the contribution each partner made to the increase. Where separate property, being a gift, trust money, or inheritance, is used for the benefit of both partners or becomes intermingled with the other relationship property, it may be classified as relationship property.
Yeah, but uh, we don't know if there is inheritance in this particular case. I just used it as an example. But even if there is, the burden of proof would still lie on the, in this case, the ex-girlfriend to prove that it does fall. So that although the, let's say, undesired received it in the form of inheritance or a gift or whatever, it did eventually come to fall in the common asset of the couple during that particular point in time. So, and they don't have kids, I believe. So that's
Yeah.
definitely out of the question.
Could it be
It
Patty season and she got an inheritance and now she has to pay him Akimi style?
Well, that's let's say if they lived in her house and he he paid for the renovations, then yeah, for example. But I mean, these are
Young
all
Akimi on the way, Israel.
well, Akimi was didn't do much commotion about it, I believe. The news just broke out
Yeah.
when the decision was already made, right? When the judgment was already made. In this particular case, Stylebender started to talk about the issue since 2001, publicly. So it's two different situations.
Well,
But
thing was why I said young Akimi on the work in the on the comma, because according to what I've read, instead of him having to share the assets, the wife had to share the assets with Akimi because he didn't have anything on paper, which could be also be applied here. If she got an inheritance living in her home and he renovated it, she tries to sue him, and at the end, it's her who has to pay up. But it's just a joke. So
yeah, well, yeah, but
that's the
yeah,
context why I said young Akim.
yeah. So that's the difference between legal ownership and factual ownership, right? So, or de facto ownership. Uh, if it's not in, and they will look at what is in the name of each party, not necessarily what is in companies of other parties. Because if the company has a legal and is a legal entity, the company is the owner and not the person itself. So I really doubt that Andesaya has everything under his name. It wouldn't be smart.
What can we learn from this situation to close out before you give us a recap?
I don't think we. I think people oftentimes underestimate the legal aspects relating to relationships. Relationships are not, because we like to say relationship is a business deal. It's not a business deal because business is more straightforward than relationships. It's not love either. It's somewhere in between. It's something on its own. And I was having this discussion with a colleague of mine yesterday, and I was commenting that people underestimate. So they know business, they know romance, but relationships, and so long term relationships, be it living a cohabitation situation, a marriage, it's a different kind of partnership. You know, if you're just dating, it's different, because when you say, okay, let's live together, you need to realize that, the more serious you get, the more legal aspects will play a role. And I think people underestimate it. The lesson is to try to not remain ignorant with these things. You can really try to educate yourself, especially if you're a man, and or a woman that earns more than the man. But it's oftentimes the man that earns more, because women generally don't look for men who earn less than them. So it's not like, it's just like the
That's
way
the
it
whole
is.
manosphere here, man.
No, no,
But it
no.
is true. That is true. It is
And
true.
so I'm a lawyer. I'm not a New Zealand lawyer, I'm not a US lawyer, but I am a lawyer. And I can tell you, a majority of the time, the man earns more than the woman. And when the woman earns more than the man, oftentimes they divorce. Or if the woman
Or
has,
she has a prenup for him to sign.
no, they divorce. A woman,
Mhm.
generally speaking, will not stay with, not generally speaking, in my experience, from what, so I'm not saying this is the way it is or something, but I'm saying from what I've experienced, a woman will not stay with a man if the man doesn't have an added value. That's all I'm saying.
What do you mean by
So, so the but you also have women that earn more, and they get a lover boy, and then the lover boy, moves in, etc., whatever the case may be. But you need to realize that, uh, when push comes to shove, oftentimes the reason why the relationship ended doesn't play a role. It's not that relevant. The law the law is not always in line with what we think is justice. And yeah, you would need to, it can be very costly. And sometimes the prevention, what you can do to prevent, is nothing. Let's say, what can it cost? Let's say it costs you $1,000 to prevent something. Let's say it costs you 5,000 if you want to do something a bit more complex. Is it, what's $1,000? What's $5,000 compared to 500,000 if you need to sell your house or more? What are we talking about? So I think that's generally the I would say that's the silver lining.